Welcome to Live Like an Acrobat. I'm your host, Shenea Stiletto, two-time World Acrobatic Gymnastics Champion, USA Gymnastics Hall of Fame member, and Cirque artist. I'm also an advocate for rain. On each episode of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast, I discuss acro handstanding in terms of training tips, coaching, and I explore circus and acrobatic gymnastics competitive life as I have lived it from past to current, and I theorize on what the future may bring in these fields. On each episode of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast, I will bring you insight through my own experiences, which are rooted in a perspective built on social justice advocacy and how these important issues continue to intersect between the circus arts and acrobatics competitive world at large. On each episode, I have the pleasure of discussing these various narratives with a variety of fascinating special guests. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast. Please consider a donation to encourage the continuation and evolution of this podcast. The details of how to donate are located in the show notes. Please make sure to check out the circuspreneur.blog.com for extended conversations and interactive content of each episode of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast. Check out Circo.co, a new circus school online international platform where you can learn hand balancing with me and learn so many other circus disciplines from trained Cirque performers from all over the world. Check out my new vlog series, Think Like an Acrobat, which is available exclusively on Circus Talk as a pro series. It's offering pro tips to professionals within the circus arts industry. On episode 3 of Think Like an Acrobat, I discuss the art of contract negotiation with artist business consultant and circus artist Ulrika Stork so you can learn how to negotiate for yourself as an entertainer entrepreneur.
The chance to get what you need if you ask your client what they need first is very high.
I love that.
It's a relationship. It's a relationship. You don't go into a relationship or to your friend and immediately demand. You know, you're a good friend if you listen. And it's the same principle. It's a relationship. And if you treat it like one.
If you're looking for a safe and virtual burlesque Valentine's night in, catch my circus hand balancing performance this upcoming Friday, February 5th with the Babylon Cabaret. Tickets are on sale now at www.babyloncabaret.com, and the link will be located in the show notes. The Live Like an Acrobat podcast celebrates Black History Month, an annual celebration of achievements by African Americans and a time for recognizing their central role in U.S. history. Black History Month is not only officially recognized in the United States, but it also is recognized in Canada and more recently has been observed in Ireland, the Netherlands, and the United Kingdom. Carter G. Woodson, known as the father of Black history, developed Black History Month. Woodson, whose parents were enslaved, was an author, historian, and the second African American to earn a PhD at Harvard University. Woodson believed it was essential for young African Americans to understand and be proud of their heritage. Those who have no record of what their forebears have accomplished lose the inspiration which comes from the teaching of biography and history, he said. The theme of Black History Month 2021 is the Black family, representation, identity, and diversity, chosen by the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. On this episode of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast, I have the absolute pleasure of interviewing artistic director and founder of the African Dream Circus, Yeneneh Tesfaye. Yeneneh Tesfaye is the founder, artistic director, and co-director of the African Dream Circus, president of the Addis Ababa Circus Association, vice president of the Ethiopian National Circus Association, and he is on the executive committee of the Ethiopian Gymnastics Federation. Yeneneh Tesfaye has an incredible performance history as a multi-skilled acrobatic artist with a spectacular specialty in ladder, Chinese chair stacking, group circus banquin, hoop diving, and as a facilitator of artists through his performance company, the African Dream Circus, who have been featured in shows such as Cirque du Soleil's Ka and Messi 10, Mother Africa, the Wintergarten, Port Aventura, Cirque Dreams, Arlette Hanson Winter Circus, Circus Finlandia, the Ethiopian, the Royal Circus, Fantasialand, Circus Poland, the Empire Touring Show by Spiegel World, the Palazzo, Cirque Phenix, the Africa Show, and the UniverSoul Circus. Yeneneh has made multiple appearances in prestigious circus festivals, and his artists have won the gold, silver, bronze, and special prize at the Moscow Nikolin International Youth Circus Festival, the Festival Latina, the Messi International Circus Festival in France, China International Circus Festival in Zhuhai, the Brazilian Circus Contest in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and the Echo Asia International Circus Festival, just to name a few. Please welcome my special guest, Yeneneh Tesfaye, to the show. My conversation with Yeneneh Tesfaye is very sweet. You will feel the sweetness coming from Yeneneh and the absolute love and dedication that he has to his company, African Dream Circus, to all of his roles, which are very demanding, that he has in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, where he is from. He takes so much pride in representing his artists well through his company and in representing a very high quality standard for acrobatic arts that he is in the position to facilitate on a consistent level for so many years. He has had a very long career as a competitive gymnast, as an acrobatic performer. He has performed all over the world. He has studied in China. He has incorporated so many different facets of his life as an artist and as a business person, as a very strong and in-demand representative of circus talent throughout the world. And that's not easy to do, to have artists that are projected into the festival circuit, into the dinner theater market in Europe, into the Cirque du Soleil market, resident shows, touring shows, special events division, into the Asian market. There is really not a market that Yeneneh is not in. Into the independent touring market in Canada and in the United States, too. There are so many powerful and inspiring attributes that you are going to gain from this episode with Yeneneh. His resume and his experiences and his artists and the quality of them really speaks for itself. And I was really fortunate to meet Yeneneh, as you'll hear in this episode, several years ago when we worked together. And it's so special, especially during this Black History Month that's just started, and the Live Like An Acrobat podcast. We are celebrating that. I am celebrating that. And there was a celebration when I met Yeneneh. We were supposed to be in an all-Black cast in Germany, a combination of Black and the different shades and the different representations of Black from all over the world, as we're all coming together. It was not just Africans, it was not just African Americans, it was not just Canadian Blacks or European Blacks or German Blacks, or it was everyone. It was so many different diverse groups. And what you also hear in the episode is that they did not achieve that. It ended up being a very much more multifaceted show than they expected, but it was still a beautiful representation of soul and of Black talent, of Black musical talent, of soul music. And it was so incredibly epic, that show was. And it was everything that I think Black History Month is. It's an ode to everything that's rich and beautiful about Black culture, actually. And it was also, too, really powerful and beautiful to be amongst and be performing with Africans, because so many of us African Americans do not know our roots to Africa from which we've come. We don't know which country in Africa our ancestors came from. There's huge gaps in that. And I often am confused with being Ethiopian, which I adore because the Ethiopian culture is so beautiful and they are so visually stunning. And I, for my whole life, really, actually just the other day before putting this interview out, this podcast, I was mistaken for being from Ethiopia. And I thought it was so beautiful. And I shared with that person that I was actually just speaking with a former colleague and a friend on my podcast who is actually from Ethiopia. But I thought that this, if you are out there and you are listening and you do not know your African roots and you are African American, and that could be something that is important to you. I think that it's very important. I did my ancestry. I am biracial, so I'm half African American, and I have always been fascinated by that. I find that it's a very different experience when you are African American outside of America. The first thing that Africans usually ask me is, "But where are you from?" And I always tell them, African Americans don't know. Most of us don't know which country our ancestors came from. And so I found out. When I'm in France, they usually think that I'm from Senegal, which is beautiful. And so I get a little bit of everything everywhere I go. So circling and cycling back around to Yeneneh Tesfaye and to the celebration of Black History Month, because I wanted to tie all of that in together. You will hear the joy and the exuberance of Yeneneh, but also, too, just the basic practicality of what Yeneneh does in the circus industry. Like I said, he's highly respected and highly regarded, and his performers have continued to make waves within the circus arts world at large, and he is fighting for more rights for Ethiopian artists in Ethiopia specifically. Obviously, he's been fighting for better rights for Ethiopian circus artists all over the world, in making sure that they get what they deserve and that they are treated appropriately. As we know, this is a very difficult and aggressive business for everyone involved. And if you are even seen even slightly as vulnerable, it's even harder. So Yeneneh shared so much with me in this podcast, and then, of course, we spoke off podcast about so many different things and elements that he is still wishing to realize within the circus arts world, because he has so many visions and he has so many things that he wants to do, and he has so many things that he's currently doing. So I hope that you enjoy this beautiful conversation I have with Yeneneh. And I will say this again, that working with Yeneneh and knowing Yeneneh for these past several years, he is one of the sweetest, kindest, most thoughtful performers that I've ever met and that I've ever worked with, and so epically professional. And what he told me, I think this was off camera, is just how much he has been able to do with his artists and get them to high caliber with not having the certain level of studio equipment or facilities that others have in different parts of the world, and yet their standard is incredible and their acrobatic knowledge and caliber is insane and amazing. It's amazing to imagine how he teaches his performers and artists and acrobats what they do without safety belts, without different types of mats and things like that. So Yeneneh wanted to remind that anything really is possible. It really is. And so if you need inspiration out there, which I know we all do constantly and consistently, But you'll definitely get it through hearing and listening to Yeneneh Tesfaye and his passion for pushing the African Dream Circus forward, his company, and the vision behind how he artistically directs and how he brings together high technical skill with the beautiful cultural exuberance and artistic qualities that are Ethiopia. So please enjoy my conversation with the Yeneneh Tesfaye. Hi, Yeneneh. Welcome to the podcast. It's been a while. Thank you so much for coming onto the show. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Shenea? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. Thank you so much for asking. Thank you again, Yeneneh. You're joining us all the way from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And I wanted to ask you, how is the current situation related to the pandemic there? Is it under control? Are you under lockdown right now? And what steps has Ethiopia taken to handle the virus?
Yeah, it's not handling yet, not yet. Normally, 2020 was a difficult year for all of us, not for Ethiopia, for all of us, especially for the entertainment business. I hope the circus will survive from this challenging period and shine again. But here in Ethiopia, we was under lockdown. Then now it's we start to work, but there is still the virus. There is still
Yeah, you're still battling it. I mean, I only know what I read from the news about Ethiopia and the current situation there. So, of course, I follow it and see kind of what's happening. But I know it's always different when you're inside of your own country or just inside of any country. It can be a very different experience from what the news is reporting. So I wanted to ask you and not assume that I know what's happening there. But I hope that it continues to get better in Ethiopia. In terms of,
We used to have 133 cases total in Ethiopia, and the recovered, I think about 119 already recovered, and the active cases are about 12,000 something currently.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I think maybe Ethiopia is doing better than California.
I think so, yeah.
I think so. I think you're doing much better than Los Angeles.
Even we don't know when the vaccine will arrive here. We don't know yet.
I hope that it's arriving soon. We're just starting to get vaccinations here, but it's going slowly, and it's projected to take quite a while. So I hope that it starts to. I hope it gets to Ethiopia soon, and that everyone, will be able to continue to stay healthy and stay safe and can get back to work. And I wanted to also give listeners a little background, Yeneneh, about how we met. We worked together like a long time ago. Actually,
Yeah,
now
sure.
we did a soul show together at the Wintergarten Variete in Berlin, Germany, called All Night Long. And I was doing hand balance, and you were doing your amazing ladder act to the track Soul Man. I really loved your act in the show, Yeneneh. And for listeners, the show was an attempt at an all-black cast, but they didn't quite do that. So it was a mix, but the intention was there. And the energy of the show was amazing. The singers were incredible. I'm sure you remember that, Yeneneh. The musicians.
Yes, I remember the soul show, yeah. All night long.
Yeah. Yeah, the musicians were so great. And it was one of those shows that I couldn't do the entire contract for because I was double booked that year. And so I had to leave early. But it was such a pleasure working and performing with you, Yeneneh, in all night long. And you're such a fantastic performer. And you have such an amazing energy. And you're such a kind and thoughtful artist. I always remember that about you. And you're so professional. Like, yeah, how did you feel about the show now that so many years have passed since we did it?
Yeah, normally I miss that show. For me also, normally I work in Mother Africa show and also, Africa show. In Germany, there is two shows in Germany production, but all night long was great, was really great. And it's, I miss a lot that show. And it was also a pleasure to work with you and with the whole cast from the show.
Thank you. Yeah, we had fun. The music, I love the music from the show. It was so great. I performed to Nina Simone, Feeling Good, and then they mixed my music with Adele because I also love Adele. And
I remember.
Trying to give everybody. Yeah, you remember?
Sure.
It was a weird mix.
It's
everyone
really
thought it was a weird mix, but it was good.
Yeah, it was good.
Well, Yeneneh, you've had about 20 years of experience as an acrobatic performer. You've performed all over the world, and your artists that you represent were featured in Cirque du Soleil's resident show Ka in Las Vegas and the popular 1903 show in Vegas as well. You've also competed in festivals and also represented artists who've performed on the famed Patrick Sébastien Le Plus Grand Cabaret as well. Such a famous show for my listeners out there that are not familiar with that show. Please look it up. You will love it. Yeneneh, you're also the artistic director of African Dream Circus. You're the president of the Addis Ababa Circus Association, the vice president of the Ethiopian National Circus Association, and you're a part of the executive committee of the Ethiopian Gymnastics Committee. How do you do it all, Yeneneh? Like your resume, it's like you're 100 years old. And listeners, if you want to hear even more specifics about Yeneneh's career, please go to the lead up of this episode. I go into even more details about all of the amazing performances and opportunities that Yeneneh has done over the years. But I wanted to ask you, Yeneneh, because you have such an interesting background. I wanted to start by asking you about your childhood and how did you get your start as an acrobatic performer, and where did you grow up, and where did you train and learn your skills? And yeah, can you start from the beginning and explore and let us know, how you got to where you are today with your 500 jobs? You have every title in Ethiopia, Yeneneh. There is nothing that you don't do or have not done. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Of course.
All right. So I started acrobatic in 1996 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, at the Congo Circus. And as a young amateur, I developed a variety of circus acts there and also gymnastic skills. Then I started to participate in regional and national artistic gymnastic competitions from 1997 to 2002. And I was a regional and national champion for more than 6 times. And at the same time, I was able to perform in various places under the Congo Circus and also Circus Ethiopia. I was a member of Circus Ethiopia also. And from 2004 to 2006, I had the opportunity to receive 2 years scholarship training from the Chinese government. The Chinese government, when they give the scholarship, they was choosing from the Gymnastics Federation for the best gymnast, and I was one of the best gymnasts. Then that's why I had this opportunity. Then after I went to China, I taught in Wuchao Acrobatic Art School. I learned there for 2 years. Then after I graduate, in addition, I start to perform around the world. Then, in addition to my stage work on the various international circus companies, then I am fulfilling my professional and national duty by founding African Dream Circus and creating a circus training and various young circus artists and for young people here. In addition, as I discover circus schools in Addis Ababa, I continue to encourage them to try new acts in the field of professional support. And I also start supporting different materials according to their reception and capacity. And in particular, I have been able to train and present more than 100 professional circus artists, and I'm currently teaching more than 150 artists.
Wow. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
amazing. You're so amazing.
Yes.
I know you represent so many acts.
Yeah, I try my best. Yeah.
Like, what drew you to becoming a circus performer, though, Yeneneh? Like, did anybody else in your family, were they doing acrobatics too? Like, how did you come to it? Was there a program that you were specifically like introduced to, like when you started to do acrobatics, and then wanting to do circus too? Like, what inspired you to want to make this your career?
And when I was young, when TV, I was looking for the Russian circus. There is a program called Apollos, and I was watching in circus, mostly acrobatic part, like the tumbling. And I was starting by myself. Then when I near to my house, then there was a show from Circus Ethiopia. They was touring, around the city and performing in the streets. Then when I start to watch the Circus Ethiopia, I start to feel that this is my job. That's how I start acrobatic. Then I go to there is a place called Congo. I go there and I was registered and I start to acrobatic in Congo Circus.
Wow, in the Congo Circus. Wow, yeah. That's amazing. Wow. So you got inspired from TV, like so many of us did. You were able to see it, and it's something like you wanted to do, and that you thought that you could do. I mean, that's where it was for me too. I saw circuses and I saw, different acrobatics, and I thought that it was so interesting, and I thought, wow, if I could do that one day, it would be like really amazing. I love Yeneneh, that you are a ladder act specialist, because there's not so many ladder act specialists. I mean, there's definitely, I think it's more like male dominated. I know like very few like kind of female ladder specialists too. But in terms of like ladder, like what drew you to that specialty? Because for listeners out there, you've got to look up, I'll have it in the show notes. You'll see Yeneneh's ladder act, but it's a really fantastic act. And it's still pretty unique. It's not, I don't think, an act that you see like everywhere. For example, I don't see ladder like, in every single show, which is good. I think it still is like a very like unique act. But what made you want to do that act specifically, Yeneneh, like that specialty with ladder?
Yeah, well, I was wondering when I saw, I was watching the Uzier Noverzov from Cirque du Soleil Corteo show, and I liked that act. And when I was in China, I saw in the internet Uzier act. Then I tell for the coach that I have to learn this. And normally I was doing also high chair balance. I was doing handstand also. And also I learned two acts. One is a high chair. Then the second act was ladder. But ladder, why I like, because I was watching Uzier's show. Then I was interested on this act. That's how I started ladder act.
Ah, okay. And did you only train your ladder act in Ethiopia, or did you go anywhere else to train it?
No, I started learning in ladder in China, in Wuchu Acrobatic Art School. Then most of the trick I developed by myself when I was working in Africa show, I was working as a duo. One of my friends who was in China also in the school. His name is Sagid Ali. We was doing a duo act for ladder acts, but most of the tricks that we develop while we are doing the show in Africa.
Ah, okay. Oh,
Then
wow.
I
How
start to
long?
do a solo act. Then after Africa, I started to do solo act. Also, he started to do his solo act also.
Oh, okay. So, how long did you train in China to learn your ladder act?
I learned in China in 2 years, 2004 to 2006. Then I was touring and I started performing in Germany with the show called Mother Africa. Then I next after that when the show finished, we started working on Africa also. Then I started to tour different countries and different companies. But how I started was I started with the Mother Africa and Africa show.
Wow. Yeah. Africa was so successful. I mean, that was a really big show. How was it doing, Africa? I mean, it was so popular. I think it was one of Germany's most popular shows that they've like ever had, right? It was really, really big.
Yeah, Africa was good. It's when we have African shows, it's mostly the cast is small, but it was larger cast there in Africa, and also when we were doing Africa show, you feel home, you are comfortable to do. That's how we feel when we are making shows, Africa shows.
You're so wonderful. That's so sweet. Well, I'd love to talk about your different titles, Yeneneh. You are the artistic director of several just fabulous acts that you spoke about. They are so well put together. They're super acrobatic. They're thematic. And listeners, please check out the acts that Yeneneh has directed and created. The links will be in the show notes of this episode. And just to provide a bit of background, just to follow up with what Yeneneh described about his acts, he's created a Icarian, women's trio, banquin, group Chinese pole, and juggling acts. Is there another type of act that I missed, Yeneneh, in acts that you've created as an artistic director for African Dream Circus?
Yes, normally it's a lot. I know it's hoop diving and bounce juggling, hard juggling. It's a lot. Antipode, a lot of
Wow, yeah,
acts
can you
which
tell
I'm
me?
working. Yeah.
So many. Yeah, what other ones? Yeah, please tell me all of them.
Okay. Then Sirwell, hoop diving, bounce juggling, aerial strap, and also skating. What's teeterboard? Korean plank, and what's juggling? Diablo. I think that this is enough for now.
So every act in circus. So basically, you've artistically directed and created like every act. Yeah, you have such a diverse amount of specialties and acts that you created, Yeneneh. I mean, usually if somebody's like doing act creation, they focus on one type of specialty and that's all that they do. But you like really have created so many different types of acts. I mean, it's very unique. And I wanted to ask you, like, when did you start artistic directing? You were performing for quite a while. And so when did artistic directing start for you? And, why are you passionate about artistic directing? I know that you're very passionate about it. You do so much. And, what does it take to be a successful artistic director? And, how do you produce your acts? What is your approach to like act development and act creation for your artists?
Yeah, how I start. First, I start, to teach in 2010. When I was working back home, most of my friends, when I left to China, most of my friend was already stopped doing acrobatic, because in Ethiopia it's quite difficult to work acrobatic, because after you train, we don't usually perform like out of the country. When you are in Europe, there is a lot of shows going on, but in Ethiopia there is no show going on. Sometimes we make shows by ourselves, but there is no company who is doing the shows. Most of the entertainment companies, they just working on music and other art forms, not in the circus. So most of my friends, they already was stopped doing acrobatic. Then I feel that, I have to come and convince them that to start again, to start over again. Then when I come back home, I sit there with them and I discuss that they have to start, and I can show them the way. This is how it starts, African Dream Circus. And one of my friends, my partner already, now is a coach. His name is Binyam Nagash. Then we discuss with him, then we start, and we found African Dream Circus. So first for us, it was challenging when it started. It was challenging for us because like we have to get the skills not to sell the act. First, you have to get the skills and to that. Then it was like I think we started in 2010. It was here normally in Ethiopian artists they are really very fast on learning. We started in 2010. After 1 year practice, we already have one act with a Chinese pole, and it was really strong act. And we take them to Milano for the Guinness record, and we attend Guinness record for the first time in Milano Mediaset studio. Then we come back home. The artists, they already get motivation and they already achieve Guinness record, and everyone was excited and everyone want to do the circus. And also there is one of the circus called CYCA, and I also was going there most of the time to help them. And mostly we create Icarian game acts in this circus. Also, there is one of the coach called Binyam Ndale, and I was working with him on creating Icarian game acts. And also we take this Icarian game act to international festivals. There was in 2030, I think, in Latina, and this Dios, they won a bronze prize. This was how we start, and for creating and directing the acts that I mostly watching different act and different shows on the internet. Also, I try to watch as much as I can. Any place where I go, I start searching for the shows and I watch the show. And also on the internet, I watch different acts and I learn. And also, in our tradition, there is we have about 82 different tribes, which means there is a lot of dance techniques, different. So we mix up there and we make like a short of history or we make acts. That's how I direct and I was presenting acts.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. Your acts, the way that you put them together, and they're all very different. They have their own personal style. I love the twins, the jugglers. They're fantastic. I know there is even more acts probably too that I haven't seen, but from the ones that I have, you bring in a lot of different elements. You bring in, like you said, Ethiopian dance elements. You bring in other modern elements, old school circus elements. You really bring in a lot of different things. So I love that you're constantly trying to be in the, kind of like being the network of seeing like where things are, and like letting that influence how you create your acts, and and what direction like you want to take with them. It's really interesting to see what your approach is, because you create like so many dynamic acrobatic troupes. Like, do you have some advice, Yeneneh, about how to create a dynamic acrobatic troupe act? And do you have any secrets for putting together like high skill level group acts? Because they're really, they're really powerful the way that you do them. And so there must be kind of like a formula, I think, that you have when you're presenting an act with so many different people in it, because it's different creating an act with one performer or two performers. It's a whole different, I think, ball game when you're creating these acts with like, 5, 10 performers. I mean, I don't know, what is the biggest kind of act that you've created with how many artists at one time?
The maximum number was 9. This was a 100 voltage act.
Yeah, I think that's the one I've seen, and it's really, really great. So how do you create these acts that you do in that way? Like, what is kind of like your secret for creating an acrobatic troupe act?
Yeah, for acrobatic troupe act, what we are doing is, first we teach them only the skills. When they get the skills, then we start to the artistic part. We start to teach them dance. We start to teach them like a movement. Then we put together the act. But the first part was getting the skills. And the players, they have to get really good on the ground acrobatic. They have to be good. Then we take them to hand voltage. This is the same like Ikar, and also we are working on the ground first. Then we take them to the act.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Yeah, so you focus on the skills, and then you start to build the act. Have you always wanted to do such like dynamic, like big troupe acts? Has that always been? Is that one of like your favorite type of acts to produce, or do you just kind of like producing all of your acts, or do you particularly love doing acrobatic troupe acts? Because I don't think you ever did an acrobatic troupe act. You said like you worked like with a partner before, so you never did those type of acts personally, but you definitely love putting them together, I see.
No, I used to do hoop diving group act, also Chinese pole also. When the artist when one of the artists sick, or when something happened, I replay them.
Oh,
because
okay.
I can do Chinese pole, I can do hoop diving, I can juggle. I used to do group juggling acts, Chinese pole, and also hoop diving.
So you basically did all the acts now that you're teaching. Again, that's something that's unique, because not every person that does, directing or does these different acts or puts them together actually can do them, and actually can be a backup. So you're basically a backup sometimes for some of your different acts, right?
Yes, I do. I used to do backup. Yes, sure.
Okay, but not anymore.
Currently not. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, currently not. Okay. Well, I wanted to ask you about your other role, Yeneneh, because you have several different roles. So I really wanted to focus on each one to ask you what you do in the role and what are your duties and your responsibilities. You are the president of the Addis Ababa Circus Association. So I wanted to ask you, what do you do as the president of the Addis Ababa Circus Association? What are your responsibilities? What does that look like?
Yeah, the associations, normally both associations, Ethiopian National Circus Association, also Addis Ababa Circus Association, it's a newly formed association. And there is a lot of purpose why we associate, but one of the main purposes is to challenge the government to formulate the circus policy. But this association both are newly formed association.
Wow. So it's to challenge them. Wow. That's really amazing.
Yeah,
That's great.
That's one of the purpose.
Wow. So you formed that with how many people are part of the association, and what are you fighting for within that to be recognized? Like, what are you asking them for? What do you think that they need to do for circus, in your opinion?
Yeah, for when you have a company here, before it was for to have a legal entity. We was the government. They don't know our circus we do from sport or from the culture, and we are like challenging them. This is the culture. Circus is entertainment art form, so it have to be culture. Currently, they already accept, but as we have no policy for this art form, there is a lot of things that we are missing. That's how we are formed association, and we are trying to push the government that they have to formulate a circus policy.
And so you see the circus policy as protecting the rights of circus performers, and protecting
Yes.
The creation of like circus companies in
Right.
Ethiopia.
Yeah, right. That's right.
Yes, I think that's something that needs to happen, in so many places, for performers and for artists to have rights. I'm so grateful that you're fighting for that. I'm sure it's been a long time in coming, because before that, now it's just kind of, if without any kind of association, it's just there's no policy, right? There's no kind of like formal recognition. Is that what you're speaking of too?
It's true. Yeah, that there was not formal recognition. That's why.
Is it difficult doing that right now and trying to push for that? Are you getting pushback? Are they open to creating more circus policy in Ethiopia because of the association and because you guys are, kind of like lobbying for this now? Is it easy? How is that going? What is the process like?
We already started now. As I told, this new formal association. So we have a good acceptance from the government nowadays.
Okay. Oh, that's great. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that, it continues to be good. And that sounds very encouraging, that that the government is open to that. Do you feel like it'll take, how long do you think that it'll take for the policy to be fully recognized there from what you guys have started now? Is there kind of a timeline, or, are you pushing for things to happen? Obviously not to take super long, because the longer you wait, the harder it is for you to be able to do the work, I think, in the way that you want to. So, how long do you think it'll take?
I can't guess. I think in 2 or 3 years, we will have a circus policy. I hope so. Because in the last month, we already make occupation standard for the circus arts. We already make occupation standard.
So, Yeneneh, we spoke about your positions as president of the newly formed Addis Ababa Circus Association and as the vice president of the Ethiopian National Circus Association. And so I wanted to move on to your last job title. And again, I don't know how you have so many roles, but it's amazing that you do so much and that you have so many titles and you have so much dedication to circus and to gymnastics too. And so I wanted to ask you about your role on the executive committee for the Ethiopian Gymnastics Committee. I'm super curious, as to the state of Ethiopian gymnastics. I was an acrobatic competitor for USA Gymnastics for a really long time, and I'm involved in some ways. So I love talking about all things competition related, and I have a lot of connections to gymnasts and acrobats competing from all over, and I love that we have this in common. I love speaking to anyone who has competed in the gymnastics field and who knows that world, because it's a unique world that we come from. And like you were saying too, a lot of the gymnasts end up going into circus, and I usually like to remind people that are not super familiar with circus that a lot of circus performers come from competition, from gymnastics or from acrobatics. So can you tell us about your role in Ethiopian gymnastics, Yeneneh?
Yeah, as I tell you, I was when I start my career, I was a gymnast and I was competing and I won also uh, for like 6 times. I was a national and regional champion. Then I also was one of the national team member. And then also I was national team coach for artistic gymnastic. Normally in Ethiopia we have only artistic gymnastic, but since last year we start also sport acrobatic. Most of the circus artists which you saw in the world stage, that they come from the gymnastic. Here in Ethiopia, almost all of the artists, they start first gymnastic, then they turn to the circus. So currently I'm one of the executive committee and also technical head of the Ethiopian Gymnastics Federation.
Wow, that's so great. I'm so great that sports acrobatics and acrobatic gymnastics, it's two names, listeners. It's sports acrobatics, or you can call it acrobatic gymnastics, and that
acrobatic, is... Sure. Yeah, acrobatic gymnastics.
But I love that you call it sports acrobatics too, Yeneneh, because that's like the original name, and that's the name that I know so well. The new name is acrobatic gymnastics, actually, and it actually doesn't like roll off my tongue very easily because it's a new name for the sport. So
all right. Yeah.
I'm more traditionalist like you. But can you tell us a bit more about Ethiopian gymnastics and what's the state of Ethiopian gymnastics right now, especially during the pandemic? Have you been able to start any kind of competitions up again? I'm starting to see some competitions happen. Some things I think virtually are happening, some like in person. But there's a lot that the federations for gymnastics and sports acrobatics have had to deal with from last year through this year. A lot of countries lost a lot of athletes actually this past year in every country because our sports are so connected and you need to have so much personal connection. So it was difficult losing so much time being able to train maybe with your partners in acrobatic gymnastics and even as a gymnast and being with your coach and having to have a lot of close contact there. So how have you been managing that during this time, Yeneneh? And can you go into a little bit more specifics about your role on the executive committee? What else you do as the head of as the technical advisor, the head of the technical chair, I would say.
Yeah, currently we are about to starting regular practice because we was under lockdown because of pandemic. So now we start supervision that all of the committee that they have to travel to different region and see what is going on in the different place, how they practice and what help they need. And we are checking that currently. And also we are planning for the competitions, for national competitions.
And so your competition will be in person?
Yeah, we go on person. We go different region. Then we're gonna check how they are working and what the problem they have, and we are trying to help them. After we look how they practice and what they have what the problem they have.
What are their biggest needs that you usually see for Ethiopian gymnastics when you go to the different regions? What do they need the most? And have you seen kind of what they need the most now in terms of assistance for some of the gyms I saw or for the competitions, but mostly it was before the competitions were starting. A lot of them were looking to try to keep their gymnasts encouraged and to keep them inspired. And then also too, to be able to figure out what kind of facilities that they could use if they couldn't go to their main gym. So I heard that was a really big issue in a lot of places too. But for your community, for your federation, actually, because you manage the federation, and that's a lot of work for our listeners listening in on that. You have a lot to do going from region to region and looking and seeing what everybody needs and kind of what the standards are and what they need to basically be able to run a proper competition, right, Yeneneh?
Yeah, our main problem on gymnastic is the equipment. The one we have is very old. We have the equipment which we have is from, I think, 1970s. There was, there was support. We got support from, I think, from Russia in 1970s. We are still using those equipment. They're very old. As you know, all equipment on gymnastic upgraded. So the one we have is really old. And even for the national federation, we don't have the exact equipment. So we are using the old one. And nowadays, we are trying to find help and support from different companies. We are just planning and to find for support. Also, we contact FIG, and we are looking for supports to have a new equipment.
I hope so. I hope you're able to get it, and I hope that it comes through with FIG. For listeners who aren't familiar with FIG, that's the International Gymnastics Federation. So they basically run gymnastics all over the world, and they're kind of like the international government for all of gymnastics and acrobatic gymnastics. If you're not as familiar with that part of gymnastics, it's another path within the gymnastics community. So that's really incredible that you guys continue also too, Yeneneh, in the face of all of that and managing the programs and vying for more support. There's never, I see within any gymnastics community, we're always asking for more support for the gymnasts, for competition. There just always seems like for every country that there's not enough support for the athletes, that there's not enough funding, that the federations need to do more to take care of the athletes and give them, grants and give them more rights individually. We're doing that, still, of course, in America. I've been on different committees asking for that too over the years, and they're constantly asking them for more help so that gymnasts and acrobats can be competitive on the international levels and that they can be strong competitors in their own country, because there is a lot that it takes. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of, like you said, equipment. It takes a lot of good facilities to make sure that you're up to par. And it doesn't mean that everybody doesn't have the abilities, but if your gym, for example, doesn't have the necessary equipment, then you can't do the same type of tricks that you'll see on different international levels, or even just from gym to gym in your own country, in your own city. It can be different, and you don't have like the same access because your gym just doesn't have as many benefits to it. So that's a really important topic, and I'm so glad to speak to you about that, Yeneneh, and to see how that's going.
Right.
Yes. In Ethiopia.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to share on that?
Sorry?
Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, that's all what I can say about the Ethiopian gymnastics.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Yeah.
You've been managing a lot of things throughout the pandemic, Yeneneh, and we touched on this like a little bit at the beginning about how entertainment was affected and circus was affected in Ethiopia and in Addis Ababa. So I wanted to ask you, how have you been managing all of those things in terms of still being a performer, I guess, somewhat, but managing your company, African Dream Circus? What did last year look for you doing circus in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa? How were your circus performers affected last year? How was your company affected? And, is there live entertainment happening again in Ethiopia? in Addis Ababa. How have you been able to keep your organizations, productive? Have you been doing things virtually, or how have you been surviving throughout this time?
Yeah, 2020 was a difficult year for all of us. And as I say, we are currently about starting regular practice. Then we are planning also to make some shows here in Addis Ababa. My main goal is to discover the hidden young talent and introduce them to the rest of the world by helping and directing their talent in the right direction. So most of the time we spent on practice with for teaching the artists and creating acts. So currently we are doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, focusing on maintaining skill.
Focusing on maintaining skill and creating new stuffs.
Mm-hmm. That's great. I know. I think that's been the focus of everybody. Like, at least don't lose your skill in any way that we can. Don't lose your skill. Maybe if you can't perform every day, or if you can't do a show every day, but at the minimum, which is very difficult to do, is to maintain your skill. And how I wanted to ask Yeneneh, how have you seen circus arts evolve in Ethiopia over the years? I know most recently, too, there was an announcement of a new circus arts center in Addis Ababa. I wanted to ask if you're affiliated with the center. I know it's a social enterprise, and, you've been involved so deeply in the circus arts community for so long. And so can you share what knowledge you have about the new center and what impact it might have on the circus industry in Ethiopia and internationally?
Yes, I know about this circus center, and I think this is just only a private company. So I'm working just on the association and also with my companies currently.
Okay. Oh, okay. So it's more of a private affiliate.
So I don't have any detailed information about this circus center.
Okay. Well, instead of that, then, how have you seen circus arts then evolve in Ethiopia? Because you do have so much experience. So beyond the center that's newly formed, which seems to be more of like a private thing, and you have your different affiliations. I know that it's very wide, and there's a lot of circus that's happening, and we can't know about everything because there's things that happen all the time, and obviously in Los Angeles or in any country that I'm living in that I don't know all the things that are happening either, and going on at the same time, or that are new. So yeah, how have you seen circus evolve, Yeneneh, over the years?
Yeah, currently the Ethiopian circus is rising rapidly, and some of the international companies, they start to coming and doing auditions over here in Ethiopia, like UniverSoul Circus, Mother Africa Circus, GOP, also Cirque du Soleil. They have been here two times for the audition, and also one time for workshop. And I think the casting director called Philip Agoge was here two times, and he was really giving us good advice on workshop. He was giving for a great comment and feedback to the coach and the artist. That was really great.
That's great. I'm glad that you see that was beneficial and that you enjoyed that. And yes, it is going very rapidly. And that comes to like my next questions, because I was interested in what you thought about that, because there has been such a surge. And I wanted to ask, this is even a broader question beyond even Ethiopia, Yeneneh. How do you see circus as an industry in Africa? Because African artists, have continued to grow and expand all over the world within the circus industry. And what do you think is the most beneficial path for African artists performing in more and more of the circus world, internationally?
Yes, right now in Ethiopia, most of the artists, when they're at home, they're just doing practice, they're only making training, and they work abroad, not in Ethiopia, because we don't have the show which is going on for the long term. Of course, sometimes we make shows, a kind of gala show, but not no, for long period shows. Most of the entertainment company here in Ethiopia, they are working on another art forms, which is like a music concert, theater, and other art forms, not circus. The Ethiopian circus is well known in out of the country, not in Ethiopia. But that's why this is also one of the purpose why we make association, and also we are to formulate, like I say, also there is another purpose that formulating policies, and to challenge the government, that we need to come back and work in like locally. Now we are well known out of the country, but not in Ethiopia. Our people, they don't know what we are doing. So now we are focusing and planning to make a lot of shows and a lot of projects here in Ethiopia.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, trying to have the local recognition. I mean, I have that a lot too, in terms of not performing sometimes as much even in America, and performing so much outside of America. But everybody forgets like what our home base is, right? That like recognition at home in our own countries, because so much of the work takes us everywhere but where we're from. So it can be a very difficult thing, because you kind of don't exist anywhere. Like we're not from the countries that we go to work in, but there's so much work for us there. And then the same type of opportunity might not be in our own countries of origin. Like you said, like long-term entertainment, long-running shows, touring shows even many times are in different parts of the world. And so, Yeneneh, I just wanted to ask you, in relationship again to just African artists in general, how do you think African artists think about the circus world, the international circus market? As an African artist yourself, how do you see the larger circus industry? I mean, I know that you feel a lot of hope with and a lot of promise with circus agencies and companies coming in to the country. But do you have any other thoughts about how African artists think about the circus world kind of at large, and also too what they think that they need continuing, like moving forward from the like circus communities, throughout the world, or the circus companies, in terms of maybe how African artists are perceived, or in terms of what they offer or what they bring to the circus communities, because it, like we said, it keeps on building, it keeps on growing more and more. And do you think there's also different protections that African artists need outside of Africa, or outside of their own countries, like Ethiopia, for example, that you think are important to kind of touch on, being in festival circuit, being in the touring circuit, being in the cabaret, dinner theater, variete industries? There's so many different sectors, being in Cirque du Soleil, being in different circus industries and circus companies throughout the world. Is there anything that you can speak on to that?
Yeah, currently, as most of the shows are booking African circus acts. I think because it's the circus act started to grow in very rapidly currently in Africa. So on the festival also, most of the festivals they invite us. So we have also achieved many results on various international circus festivals. African shows. What is the different from the other show, and also African acts from the other part of the world is most of the act are joy and energy. The most of the act we are making with the African dance, most of the with the traditional dance, the energy, the lot. Like when they invite us for the festival on different company, they just waiting for the energy. When they say it's African act, even before they don't see the level of the skills. They just only want the energy. But these days we are coming, with the skill levels also. But they still like most of the companies, they want the energy and the joy of the African act.
Well, you have such beautiful, beautiful energy. But like what you're saying also too is that you have the skill and you have the technical ability. So it's both. Yeah. It's not just one or the other. It's not just, we just bring beautiful and inspiring and powerful African energy. We also have the tricks. We also have the amazing abilities to be in the festivals, to be in the shows. So it's to be seen as fully, recognized fully as an artist with the technical abilities, right?
That's right.
Mm-hmm. It's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing what you think and how you see, and what you feel like people ask you for versus also too what you feel like you want to be asked for and what you want people to be available for when they're approaching African artists and bringing them into shows. Because again, you're multifaceted, you're multidimensional, you have so much to offer, even though it's newly formed with African arts in some ways. Like you said, the surge is in particularly new. You do have a very strong basis of African circus arts and a lot of different artistic and creative and technical ability. So I think it's very important and it's very encouraging and it should be coming from an African artist like yourself that's telling the communities and telling the companies what you want to do and what you're capable of, so that they can recognize that and use you in the ways that you feel like are respectful to your abilities and, and to how, you want to work in this business. Yeneneh, can you tell us how we can support either the organizations for the gymnastics communities or how we can support Ethiopian circus or Ethiopian artists through you or through other ways? Do you have, I know that you said that you're going to focus on having more shows based in Addis Ababa, but because you're in both of those worlds like me, I always tell people like I'm fighting for both sides. I'm fighting for the acrobats that are competing and for the circus performers too, because both of those worlds are really important to me and they're very important to you too. So how can listeners support Ethiopian artists and Ethiopian gymnasts?
Yeah, you can support through the associations, for the National Association and also Addis Ababa Circus Association. We have Facebook fan page. Also for the National Association, we have websites. I can write you down. Then you can write us an email and you can support. You can contact us through the fan page or website.
Wonderful. That's fantastic. And also, Yeneneh, what other plans do you have for this year for your circus company, African Dream Circus, and as part of your organizations and associations? I know that you are planning the competitions to be able to move forward for the Ethiopian Gymnastics Federations. But what other plans do you have? And do you have things that you're thinking of doing, but you don't know how they're going to work maybe because of the pandemic? Do you have maybe some contracts that are maybe in the works to do shows, like maybe like at a different part of the year? Or are you thinking about different ways to survive if if we can't really travel still throughout this year. How do you think about that? What do you think?
Yeah, because of pandemic, I was spending most of my time on working on my future plan for our school and also discovering on a variety things that raise myself. And soon that we will announce on our next step and different projects, our upcoming shows on our fan page on Facebook or Instagram.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's so great. And I'm so happy that, you are pushing forward with everything. You're giving so much support to circus community in Ethiopia. My gosh, you do so much. You're giving so much support to the gymnastics community in Ethiopia. Like, I know that they're probably very grateful for you, Yeneneh. You have so much experience, you keep on creating new levels of territory there. So, and building up both of your Ethiopian communities that you're a part of. I just think that's so valuable and so amazing. And I think too, what you want to see is in terms of, I think I just had one more question for you, in terms of there being just more circus companies in Africa, for example, putting on like their own shows. I think that you're saying also too, do you want to see more of that? Like more companies that are created there, that produce shows there, so that all of the entertainment isn't going internationally, but that there is entertainment that comes more into Africa to experience African circus or Ethiopian circus, right?
Yes, right. Currently, African shows, in Tanzania, the Mama Africa show, directed by Winston Ruddle, is really great and strong shows. Currently, they are going on in Tanzania. Also, we are planning on making shows for long period here in Ethiopia. And, we have been touring also in different country with full shows. We was in Japan. Also, I was in 2019. I was in Adelaide Fringe Festival with the Mamas Africa venue. We was taking a show called Ebony. He was doing a full show, and in Japan also. Then was also working in Ukraine. So now we are back in home. We are taking the show back to home.
Wow, that's beautiful. You're just all over the place. You're everywhere. You're always just doing things all over and just everywhere. That's amazing. That's beautiful. And again, I like that you are doing both, like you've just been out and doing things, all over the world, and you're also focused on what's important for you at home too, in your home country. So I think that that's very precious, and I really respect you trying to do both and benefit both, and making sure that there's equal opportunity both places, outside of country and inside of the country as well. And I want to say thank you so much again, Yeneneh. I just want to ask my last question. Is there anything that you want to share that I didn't ask you, or that we didn't touch on in the interview, that you think is important in relationship, even just to circus arts, just in general? If you could just give some last thoughts about that, I would love that. Just in terms of how you see circus just in the world. What do you think of the circus world now? Like, after you've been in it this long, what does it look like to you, and like, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's currently it was a very difficult time for the entertainment business, and I hope the circus will survive from this challenging period and will shine again. And finally, what I would like to say, thank you for all of the people who is coming here and doing auditions and also workshop, like Winston Ruddle from Mother Africa show, Africa production, Mama Africa production. Also Philip Agoge he was really doing a good workshop. He was really good, giving a really good feedback for the artists and for the coach too. Also, Cedric Walker from Universal Circus. I would like to say thank you what they contribute for Ethiopian circus community.
That's so beautiful. And thank you again for coming onto the show, Yeneneh. It was such a pleasure to have you on to share all of your experience and your circus knowledge. You're an amazing educator and an artist, and you're such a leader for the circus community. So I'm really grateful for you. And thank you so much for sharing all of your inspirations on the show too. And yes, I wish you so much continued success and love and making it through this difficult period. And I know if anyone's going to be able to make it through and help the community forward, it's you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Yeneneh Tesfaye, Artistic Director, Founder, and Co-Director of African Dream Circus. The Live Like an Acrobat podcast is also available on Circus Talk, the inclusive, independent, and international online network for the circus industry. Circus Talk's mission is to create a level playing field for this industry and democratize access to information. Please consider subscribing to the Live Like an Acrobat podcast and to the circuspreneurblog.com, where you will find extended conversations and interactive content of each episode of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast. I'm your host, Shenea Stiletto, and until next time, please stay safe and stay healthy.